Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 4:06 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, a critical hour as we watch this big spending debate take place in Congress. We have Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina, member of the House Freedom Caucus, joining us at 4:30. At 5 o'clock, the senior counsel at the Article 3 Project, Josh Hammer, is here as Fannie Willis is thrown off that Donald Trump case, that anti-Trump case in Georgia, finally. Josh reacts to that. And you can chat with us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The people's voice will not be ignored. Americans everywhere staring very intently at Congress right now. Definitely on display yesterday as an 11th hour spending deal collapsed in a pile of ash because the American people paid attention. Elon Musk paid attention. Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, all paying attention and saying, wait a second, 1,500 pages of spending garbage? This is not a continuing resolution. This is brand new corrupt spending. It's a reauthorization of the censorship regime under the Biden administration, under the federal government, to be extended for yet another year? What was that? And the horrors, the list of horribles we went through yesterday, they just were out of control. And so luckily that whole thing died a well-deserved death yesterday. Since then, since yesterday, it's been interesting. The left is coalescing around a strategy of this, and they're all using the same talking points, of calling Elon Musk President Musk. This is their latest talking point. These talking points, have you ever noticed on the left how talking points disseminate and then they're reiterated by everybody? They're all just repeated. They all sing from the same hymnal. President Musk, President Musk. Here's Democrat Congressman Brad Sherman. Listen.
I don't know who's going to win this shutdown, but I know who loses, and that's the American people. And we know who caused it. We had a deal, we negotiated a deal, and then Musk decided to change the deal. Do I call him President Musk?
President Musk. Do I call him that? Because that's what just came into my inbox from the DNC. Here's Dan Goldman mouthing the words.
Well, Lawrence, I think you have it just half a click off. It's not Donald Trump asking for this. It's very clearly President Elon Musk asking for this.
I like the insult, by the way, that is implied here towards Joe Biden, who is still the president of the United States, and nobody's even talking about him. It's not President Trump. It's President Musk. It's President Musk. Crying Adam Kinzinger over on CNN.
But look, President Musk this morning made it clear with all his vast government experience, which is basically he became rich on the federal government, that he doesn't want Republicans to pass this. And seemingly Vice President Trump kind of backed him up then at that point. And what it says about the politics is this is going to be a messy 4 years.
These people are mental patients. So there's a couple things to unpack here. One of them is, you know what they think the strategy is here? They think the strategy is we're going to get under Trump's skin. We're going to say that it's Elon Musk calling the shots, and Trump's ego is so big that he's going to become annoyed that people think that Elon is calling the shots, and so we're just going to keep repeating this until Donald Trump is sufficiently annoyed that we can induce chaos rather than work on behalf of the country. So that's their game plan. That's the goal, is to try and get under Trump's skin, drive a wedge between him and Elon Musk. And let me reiterate a point that I made yesterday with you about Elon. This is one of the world's richest people. One of, at any given moment, the richest man on record on the planet. And he's devoting what his influence yesterday as it related to that big, horrific spending bill was to make it so that they wouldn't pass out of control spending. They wouldn't enrich already wealthy people by sticking their disgusting hands into the government coffers, into the taxpayer coffers, and then robbing you. Elon Musk fought for you yesterday. His cause was noble, is noble. He didn't fight to enrich himself. That's not what he was fighting for. Do you understand how billionaires and the super wealthy broadly to the extent that they play a role in Washington politics, usually play a role. Usually it's under the cover of darkness. Usually it's behind the scenes. Usually it is way out of public sight. And in the end, what ends up happening is these very wealthy interests end up enriching themselves at the government trough. That's how this works normally. So when Elon steps into this fight yesterday, and even before that, as a part of the Department of Government Efficiency, which is really just American citizens voicing their concerns about the excesses of our government. It's not even a real government agency. It's literally just a collection of people who would like to see the government more efficiently operated, led by two very smart and, yes, very wealthy men, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They are committed not to figuring out ways that they can personally benefit from government. They're trying to figure out ways to make government better for you. That's the goal here. That's the goal. And so the way the left has been talking about this, especially in the last 24 hours, is they're making it seem like Elon is an oligarch who's looking to enrich himself. That's the implication, especially when you start using phrases like oligarch, that, oh, they're just in it for themselves. They're a wealthy interest who's taking advantage of the government in order to enrich themselves. What Elon was fighting for yesterday was literally the opposite. Now, Adam Kinzinger is partially right. He is right that Elon Musk has made money from taxpayers because taxpayers have given Elon Musk's companies cash in exchange for their much better product at a much better price. If you've spent any time listening to Elon Musk over time talk about the products that he offers, things like SpaceX, you see, flying to the International Space Station, looking to get us to Mars, looking to not only have technology that can launch rockets into the air, but can catch them as they come back down, stuff we've never seen before. Elon's pitch has always been, and is, I'm going to do this with a better product at a cheaper price. I'm not going to be Boeing. I'm going to be different. I'm going to come in, I'm going to underbid all of these other competitors. I'm not going to take advantage. I'm going to get the money for that we're worth, and I'm going to give you a better quality product. That's what he's committed to. And God willing, he delivers on that. He has in many ways already. And so, is he allowed to do that? Yes, he is. Does it matter that he sells to the taxpayer? Should we consider that as we consider his motives? No question. Every one of these guys, you should contemplate that. But Elon, in a very crystal clear way, worked on behalf of the American people yesterday. There's no question about that. And so, once again, the funhouse mirror that is the American press is inverting this entire story to make it seem like he's some sort of cruel, self-interested oligarch who's only fighting for himself, when it's quite literally the opposite. It is a perfect inversion of the truth. A perfect inversion of the truth. So thanks to the combined efforts of people like Elon and Vivek and J.D. Vance, and yes, of course, perhaps at the top of that list, President Trump, this spending saga took a turn yesterday, particularly during our program between 3 and 6 o'clock. It took a huge turn. That 1,500-plus page bill, dead on arrival, and thank goodness. And now at this hour, Politico reports that the Republicans have struck a new spending deal, Now, let me just start with what President Trump asked for yesterday. In his public statement that he put out with J.D. Vance, he wants a clean continuing resolution, and he wants a suspension of the debt ceiling. He wants to get rid of that debt ceiling. President Trump thinks that it is a piece of leverage that Democrats use that hangs over the head of Republicans. This is his view on it seems. And that he'd like to avoid giving Chuck Schumer any leverage whatsoever. Now, I'm the kind of guy, and I'm guessing you are probably the kind of person who likes to create as many impediments to the government accruing more debt as possible, right? You don't want the government accruing more debt. Look at the chaos it's already done to us. But President Trump doesn't want the Democrats to have any weapons in their hands next year as he gets his agenda underway. And you can see obviously why he would want that. And so here's Politico's report on the subject for now. GOP strikes a new spending deal that includes disaster aid and raising the debt limit. Republicans have struck a deal on a short-term government spending patch and potential debt limit increase, according to two Republican lawmakers meeting in Speaker Mike Johnson's office Thursday afternoon. That's today, of course. There is an agreement, said Representative Stephanie Bice of Oklahoma, and Appropriations Chair Tom Cole confirmed that there is a deal among Republicans, though the news has caught House Democrats by surprise. Well, yeah, because they're not in the room. They shouldn't be a part of it. I hope they were caught by surprise. I don't want them to have been a part of this up to the point that they have full knowledge of what's going on. You're in the minority. Stay there. Do not get involved. Every time you get involved, this thing becomes worse. So good. Democrats were caught by surprise. We're off to a good start. The plan Johnson is expected to put on the House floor later today, Thursday, includes the following, according to 3 Republicans familiar with the deal. A stopgap measure that funds the government through mid-March. Well, that should be the whole bill, by the way. There shouldn't be another thing in this series of events. The whole bill should be it stops the funding, or it's a CR through mid-March. We keep the same spending. We do it through mid-March. That's it. It also includes a, quote, clean farm bill extension and the $110 billion disaster aid package previously negotiated with Democrats, which should be its own piece of legislation. A clean health care provision extenders and a 2-year suspension of the debt limit. That's what President Trump was asking for, the debt limit suspension, kicking a new deadline into January of 2027. Trump endorsed the deal in a Truth Social post, saying Johnson and the House, quote, have come to a very good deal for the American people. So now President Trump is backing this. All Republicans and even the Democrats should do what is best for our country and vote yes for this bill tonight, said the president, all capital letters, exclamation point. Now, Bice, the Republican congresswoman, said she expects Donald Trump and Elon Musk to support the deal after the two had derailed Johnson's plan to pass a more than 1,500-page catch-all measure that he negotiated with top Democrats earlier this week to avert a government shutdown, deliver more than $100 billion in disaster aid, and enact a slew of unrelated policy priorities. The House is expected to vote on this plan as early as 6 p.m. That would be the conclusion of this program. 6 p.m. is when they're expected to vote on this, according to 3 Republicans. The government shutdown deadline is Friday at midnight. We need a better word for the government shutdown, don't you think? It's not even real. It's not a government shutdown. I saw our buddy Mark Levin tweeting this morning about this, and he was laying out all of the government so-called shutdowns in the past and how it's a joke. It's a complete joke. It is nothing. I saw somebody post the death toll from all of the government shutdowns we've had. Do you know what it is? It's 0. We've had 0 deaths from government shutdowns. In fact, government shutdowns are so anticlimactic that when we had one during the Obama era, you remember what they did? They wasted taxpayer dollars to pretend it was painful. They spent money on signage that they put up at national parks. These are outdoor spaces that you can walk in. Nature is self-healing. Nature takes care of itself. The rain comes down, the trees grow, you can walk on all of it. It's wonderful. Try it sometime. Obama put signs up and barricades blocking you from getting any access to national parks. They added expenses during the government shutdown in order to make it painful for you. And perhaps most offensive at all, do you remember them blocking off World War II veterans, the ones we have left, from accessing the World War II memorial right here in Washington, D.C.? They put tape up. They blocked it. They tried to stop World War II veterans from visiting their own memorial. This is because a government shutdown is not painful. Again, whatever what you want to call it, it is not. It's a scam. It's a fear-mongering exercise. One more thing about government shutdowns. We've got a lot to get to today, but remember, Obama lied as well about a lot of things, but about government shutdowns. Obama had at one point suggested to the American people that you wouldn't receive your Social Security check if the government went to shutdown. If the government shuts down, there go your Social Security checks. They're not going to be arriving anymore. There's going to be nobody to send them, nobody to fill them out, nobody to sign them, nobody to print them, nobody to send them off to you, nobody to handle it. That was a lie. It is a lie. By law, those checks continue. By law, those checks continue. And he chose to do what so many politicians, dirty, disgusting politicians do. They lied. Hakeem Jeffries is doing it today. Hakeem Jeffries says, if the government shuts down, you won't be able to visit your family for Christmas.
Holiday travel will be impacted. The ability of everyday Americans to visit their family, their friends, their loved ones will be impacted.
What a scam. You won't be able to visit your family. You won't be able to see them if the government. What does that have to do with anything? What does your stupid incompetence and mismanagement of our government have to do with whether or not I see my parents for Christmas? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Unless you think you're going to put a barricade on I-95 and block us from moving. Absolutely nothing. And don't you dare get in our way. Some good news. This new bill that Congress is considering does not include funding for that censorship operation. The Global Engagement Center, Gabe Kaminsky, who's been so good on this, he's been digging through the bill. That's not in there anymore. That's good news. Let's go to Tom in Cincinnati, line 8. Tom, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Government shutdowns, what should we call them?
Well, you know what, Vince, this is all political theater, so just call it government intermission, you know?
I love that. I can't even tell you how much I love it, Tom. That's fantastic. It's a government intermission. That's perfect. I'll take one of those. You know, get up, use the bathroom, grab some popcorn, you know. Just have a good time. Government intermission. Thank you, Tom. That's a smart point. Government shutdown. It sounds so perilous. It's not. It's a time of joy. This is a joyful time of year. We could use a government shutdown to make it more joyful. Excuse me, a government intermission to make it more joyful. We may not get there, though. It looks like a deal is in the works, a deal that President Trump supports, in fact. He just said so. Coming up, Congressman Ralph Norman gives us the latest from inside of Congress just moments away. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 4:35, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up on the program from the Article 3 Project, Josh Hammer will be here as Fulton County Prosecutor Fannie Willis just got thrown off her anti-Donald Trump crusade by the court in Georgia. We'll cover that breaking news with Josh at 5 o'clock. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We have a deal, ? Republicans striking a spending deal at this hour that includes disaster aid and raising the debt limit, says Politico. It's actually suspending the debt limit for 2 years. There is a distinction here, but in the end, the debt does go up. Joining us right now to talk about what is happening in Congress is Congressman Ralph Norman. He represents South Carolina's 5th Congressional District, and he's the member of the mighty House Freedom Caucus. Sir, good to have you back with us.
Well, great to be with you, Vince.
Let's just start with yesterday's developments before we get to the breaking news today. Yesterday, we had a 1,500-plus page gargantuan spending package, pre-Christmas, no time to read it spending package in front of us. And there was a grassroots movement to stop it. Elon Musk definitely got in on that, Vivek Ramaswamy, and then President Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance got in on it as well. Just describe for me what you saw happen yesterday and how unusual that was.
Well, first of all, to get a 1,547-page report and have less than 12 hours to read it with $690 billion at stake and more, to pass something like that is insanity. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, when you got into the content of the bill, it had paying for the bridge that collapsed. It had the language for pay increase for Congress. It had language that would prevent evidence from the January 6th coming out more fully. And on the disaster for farmers and the dollars for that, no pay for us. No, I mean, just more spending. And so, you know, a lot of us just said we're not doing that. And as it got around Capitol Hill, as they had the whip count, the support just dwindled. And bear in mind, this was going on suspension. And to your listeners, that means it doesn't go through Rules Committee where we get to debate it, vote on it, and know what's in the bill. And suspension means you've got to have the only difference in that and taking it to the floor is in suspension you have a 3/4 vote.
Yeah.
And on when you go to the House, you have to have 50% plus one. All of this, I think, was pre-orchestrated. Christmas is, 4 days away? The shutdown is hours away tomorrow at 12 midnight. And it's always been, I've been in Congress since 2017, it's always been, we can't have a shutdown. You can't vote against a shutdown. So they would bring the bills and bring the spending up to the last minute. And I just don't buy that. I mean, you don't spend the taxpayers' money just to avoid something in any negotiation, really, but particularly with $35 trillion and counting in debt, and to have this as a lever, and it's always been used since I've been here. I'm willing to go through the shutdown, and I propose that to the caucus, and I will vote against the bill that's basically a repeat of what they took off the floor last night. And you can have a limited shutdown. You pay for essential services. The Social Security checks go out. Bottom line, you're not bluffed into doing that. And the subliminal message is, if you vote for a shutdown, you can get thrown out of office. Well, if that's the case, then do it, I guess, because the heart and soul of the country, the financial stability of the country is at stake, and I believe that.
That's for sure. Yeah, I don't think – I was just saying a moment ago, I don't even think government shutdown's a useful way to describe what happens, because most of the government continues operating as usual, and the Social Security checks keep going out anyway. The military keeps operating. I mean, it's silly to call it a shutdown. One of my callers just said it's more like a government intermission, which I'd be perfectly fine with. One thing, though, that I'm bugged by, I keep being bugged by, is why did Speaker Johnson allow it to get this far? The guy was elected in no small part because of discontent over the way the budget process works on Capitol Hill. So why is he doing this in the closing days of this Congress? Why not have taken care of this earlier?
Well, he should have. I mean, we were out the whole month of October. This is when you do the work. And I would make the point now, we need to do the work now rather than pass. No bill is better than a bad bill. And I would just as soon work. I get the timing. But look, this is America is the bright light for this whole world. And we're the leader of the free world. And, if you're broke and if you don't have money, if you're spending more than you make, that's kind of basic. A business can't operate like that. A family can't operate like that. Why should the federal government? But it shocked me Mike did that. And I think he had cut the deal with the Democrats, unfortunately. He thought he had the votes, and then he just didn't.
He doesn't now. So now they've moved on, they claim, to a new plan. Politico reports that it includes a stopgap measure that funds the government through mid-March. That would be the CR component of this. It includes a clean farm bill extension. It includes $110 billion in disaster aid that was previously negotiated with Democrats. It includes a, quote, clean health care provision extenders and a 2-year suspension of the debt limit. That's what President Trump is asking for, that debt limit suspension. And it kicks that deadline to January of 2027. Congressman, I don't know if you know any more about this deal than we do, but what do you make of it?
Well, it's the same, really, basically just a remake of what we took off the floor last night because it didn't have support. Now, it's somewhat better, but still, I mean, to suspend the debt limit for 2 years, why would we do that? It's just a matter of financial solvency for America, and we face it now, we face it later. But no, I'm gonna vote against it. It's an easy no. I know the president's got the incoming president has good reasons to want to face this and not get into the new year and face Schumer and the rest of them with the debt crisis, because they've always used that to their advantage. But it's a new day. The good news is we got the House, the Senate, we got the presidency. I like President Trump's policies. They're going to be expensive. We heard a report from Tom Homan this morning. Deporting the 15 million in this country is terribly expensive. It's going to be $1 billion, if not more. So I get he needs the money, but where's cuts come in? The things we're voting on tonight, there's no offsets again. I mean, put it up. Let's go individually, line item by line item, and make the necessary cuts.
Yes.
That the DOJ Commission's doing, but we're not even doing that.
Will this, as you understand it right now, will this be one piece of legislation? Everything that we're discussing, it's not going to be separated at all.
To my knowledge, and I haven't seen this, 166 pages coming out. Yeah, that's the fallacy of this thing. You're not herded into a corner. Yeah, 166 pages. I wouldn't buy a toaster without reading 4 pages or 3 pages, much less 166, and much less 1,547 pages.
Yeah. I mean, why not pass a clean CR, a one-pager, and then if you want to pass disaster aid or anything else, why not make it a separate piece of legislation?
It should be like that.
And yet it's not.
It should be. And we don't have the time. We're using the clock is ticking because of the shutdown. That should not be a deterrent for getting good legislation. You take as much time as it needs and I get we don't have the Senate now. But in, what is this, the 19th? What?
Yes.
12 days, we'll be in a new year. Nothing's going to happen between now and then, really. Nobody needs the money that quick. And I'm all for disaster relief for farmers. I've heard from them. I believe them. For disaster, I feel for the people who are victims of Helene. But you have offsets. You just don't borrow it and print more money. That's where the difference is.
The president, as you point out, he does want the debt limit suspended. He'd like to basically get rid of that. The reason for that seems abundantly clear to me, which is he doesn't want Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to have any leverage next year at any point because he'd like to get his agenda underway without having anything hanging over his head. That said, today he's taken a particular shining to, well, not shining, whatever the opposite of that is. He doesn't like Chip Roy today. He's angry at Congressman Chip Roy, who he says is, quote, getting in the way. And he says all for the sake of some cheap publicity for himself. Congressman Ralph Norman, I believe Chip Roy, and you don't have to speak for him, but I believe the reason they're at odds is because Chip Roy doesn't want to suspend the debt ceiling. I think he's trying to hold the debt down, right?
I've been with him late last night when we met with Senators Vivek Ramaswamy. I've been with him this morning. We've had 3-hour meetings. The president's wrong on this. He's not doing it for publicity. There are no cameras and we were hammering out the detail. No, he wants a thoughtful plan. Chip has been around far more than any of us. He's been a staffer. He's worked on the Hill for a long time. He's a lawyer. He's very bright. And so not take up for Chip on that. That's not right. That's not a good characterization of him. Now, the president can do that, but to say that he's doing it for publicity and he's unpopular and for challengers to line up, that's going a little bit too far.
Yeah,
and I could be the next one. I mean, I know I realize the reality, but look, he's got so many good things. I disagree with him on his analogy of Chip, but he can say what he wants. He's great for the country. He saved the country, and we'll get over this. This isn't some big, it's squabbles, but we can have a healthy discussion, and we can agree to disagree.
So yeah, and you're all adults. So when it comes to what's going to happen today, in your view, Congressman, do you think that this spending deal, whatever it is, ends up passing today? Do you, just based on kind of your perspective on it? You said you're a no vote on it. Will there be many more no votes?
He needs 80 Republicans to handle it under suspension and pass it. If he does that, if it passes, then that's it. If it doesn't pass under suspension, there's a provision that he can go back to the Rules Committee, and I'm on rules, and we can vote on it then. And then would most likely vote on it either late tonight or tomorrow. And if it goes to the floor, it takes, instead of a supermajority, it takes 50% plus one. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it'll pass in unless it gets Democrat support. The Democrats like this bill because it's got a lot of pork in there for them. The bridge isn't the only thing. I mean, there's plenty of other stuff that they got what they wanted, and that's just goes against everything I believe.
So you say this is 166 pages, as you understand it, and it's loaded up with pork that Democrats would like to see passed.
Correct. It took some pork out. Now they not getting everything they want, but I mean, the Francis Scott Key Bridge is still in there. The medical extenders. But the big thing on all of this is that they do not have pay-fors in any of this. There's no attempt to pay for this, and I will tell you, the only good thing the Biden administration has done is give us things to cut.
Okay. Finally, Congressman Ralph Norman, are you ready to render an opinion on whether or not Speaker Johnson should maintain that role?
This makes it harder for him. I like Mike. We're in this position because we didn't handle it earlier. We'll see. I mean, you get into the question, who wants the job? Who's next? Who will do it differently? And that's what you get into. But I've got an open mind. I like Mike. I disagree with him on how this is handled, but be that as it is, we'll see. An hour in politics is an eternity.
It sure is. We discover that every single day. Congressman Ralph Norman from South Carolina, sir, nice to have you on the show today. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much. Okay, speaking of Chip Roy, President Trump posting to Truth Social, going after Chip Roy today, who clearly, I guess, behind the scenes and somewhat in front of the scenes, and to a lesser extent, has been saying, like, look, I don't want to raise the debt ceiling. I want to restrain government spending. President Trump wants to suspend the debt ceiling for 2 years to remove the leverage that the Democrats are going to try and wield over him at very critical moments in his presidency. And you can kind of see where both sides are coming from here. But Chip Roy was confronted in the hallway by some reporters who said, you see what Trump said about you? What do you have to say about that? And at that point, Chip Roy hadn't even seen what President Trump had said. Here's what it sounded like.
So Trump is saying you're getting in the way of a Republican victory for cheap publicity. What's your reaction to that?
I've been able to read. All we're doing is trying to talk about how to get a deal done so we can actually cut spending.
Do you plan to talk to him to smooth things over?
I don't even know what we're talking about. I got to look at whatever was put out there. But I know we've
weak
just
and
been having a
ineffective
conversation.
people like Chip have been dismissed as utterly unknowledgeable as to the ways of politics and as to making America great again. Put America first and go.
You know, President Trump does not do anything half rear-ended, does he? Half-fannied in honor of Fannie Willis. He doesn't do anything half-fannied at all. He just comes in like a 50,000-pound gorilla. He just starts smashing when he wants to. It's his style. It's got him this far.
Go for victory.
We're working right now on how to actually cut spending, which is what the voters sent me to Washington to do.
We're working to cut spending, which is what the voters sent us to Washington to do. So there is Chip Roy responding to the news that he was just becoming aware of. Amazing. Donna's calling in from Frederick, line 1. Donna, good afternoon. You are on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Well, hello, good afternoon. If I were Chip Roy, I think I'd pay very close attention to what Trump's asking. I think all of this, and I'm going to say this to all of them, they need to be careful when they do this. And because the people are so well aware, they want a shutdown, or as I like to call it, a time out. People are fed up, and I mean 100% fed up with all this pork and all this government spending and self-pay raises. Forget about it. Drop it now.
Yeah.
We have a new sheriff in town, and he's coming in, and everything's blazing around him.
I'm looking forward to it. But I will say, Donna, on this one, President Trump, and I love your expression, it's a timeout for government. I love that. Put him in the penalty box. That's another one. But President Trump, he wants this deal. He says he wants this deal today. He wants to suspend the debt ceiling. Chip Roy's saying, I don't want to add any more debt. I can see where both of these guys are coming from. At the moment, it's not President Trump who's moving for a shutdown. He's moving for passage of this new package, which, by the way, is 116 pages. Just a slight correction of what Congressman Ralph Norman said. He said 166. It's 116. The copy is out. And guess what it doesn't include? No more pay raises for members of Congress, thank goodness, and no more censorship of the American people. That was in the old one yesterday in that garbage bill. We'll keep digging through. We'll keep talking to you about what we find, and Josh Hammer will join us in a moment.